Earlier this week, we discussed Ranker.com ranking Meghan amongst many other public figures and celebrities, and asking viewers, readers, watchers to rank them based on who they disliked the most. Now, for the most part, I have seen so many people have really big reactions to the fact that Meghan was ranked higher at some points than Diddy. But my initial irritation wasn't only that, although that was a big part of it, as you all saw. But one of my biggest issues with that whole survey in general was that Meghan and Harry and several other people were even on that list to begin with. I think it says a lot about us as a culture, whether we individually participate in things like that or not. But I mean, as a culture, that it has become so normalized in our society to publicly bash innocent people. When you are roped in based on a general term of simply disliked by people, and you are roped in and corralled into a group of people who just happen to be unlikable to certain types of human beings. And listen, none of us are absolved from that. All of us who are walking this earth are disliked by somebody. I guarantee you. It is none of our business how other people feel about us. That is up to them. And they have every right to form an opinion about us, about our opinions, about our wardrobes, about our teeth, about our eyelashes. Regardless of how granular or how bird's eye view you want to get, someone out there dislikes you, and that is their prerogative. And you know what? Go ahead with your bad self. But when those people are given a platform, a microphone, a mouse click, a keyboard, what have you, to interact in a public space, to project those personal opinions based on nothing but opinion, not based on fact, not based on harm done, not based on impact, not based on any real crime or misstep. We need a disclaimer. High levels of ignorance here. Prepare yourself. You've been warned. Block. There's a difference between the real world and make-believe, and it is okay to think highly of yourself. But we've got to stay grounded in reality around here. What makes you think that Meghan would even look your way once, let alone twice, and long enough to want to befriend you? Are you that befriendable? Are you her cup of tea? I think you're asking yourself the wrong questions. I don't think you should ask yourself whether or not you like Meghan. I think you should ask yourself whether you're likable to begin with. Hell, I think if you're forming an opinion about someone you don't know, I think you should drill down into that and ask yourself, do I like me? Because people who like themselves, people who love themselves, people who honor themselves and respect themselves don't get online and become trolls. I can't tell you how those, what seems to be these small, innocuous things like, oh, it's just a survey online, or oh, it's just a this, it's just a that. These things build the way people see the world. And there are a lot of people who are far more impressionable than you or I. Hell, we're not absolved from that. I have to regularly, because of the line of work that I am studying to go into, I have to regularly confront and check my personal inherent biases. I have unconscious biases. I have biases that I've built over time through experience, through my teachings. And obviously those aren't racism or anything like that. But there are inherent biases that I had to unlearn. And we know we're not perfect. We have to hold ourselves accountable. We have to hold our lives and our belief system and the people around us accountable. It's a give and take, and it's a lifelong journey, and we know it, and we willingly embark on it because we want to leave a positive impact on the world and reduce harm. But there are some people who genuinely do not care. It starts with yourself. If you love yourself, you typically exude that outwardly. When you have empathy for self, you typically have empathy for others. When you have an understanding of self, you typically extend understanding to others, or at least reserve judgment until you can get an understanding of a person. You typically don't rush to a conclusion, or at least you don't project the worst parts of yourself and the ridiculous bile that you've been taught onto other people who don't even know you exist. These things are identifiers, in my opinion. I think they're alerts to me and other people who are observant, and even in the least bit, we see you. I have a few comments that have said, well, you're bringing more attention to it by talking about it. I can assure you, my YouTube channel with 35,000, I think we are 32,000. Anyway, it's upper 30 or low 30s. So that's great. But my channel is not bringing any more eyes to this. Because the people who watch my channel, the people who click on my channel are people who support Harry and Meghan. And so the people who watch this channel are not going to go seek that out. And if they are, it's with the intent to defend her or to simply block the domain or the URL or whatever. So the people who watch my channel are responsible and they support Harry and Meghan. But let's say some looky-loos ended up over here who are not here to support Harry and Meghan. I can assure you, my channel defending her is not going to interest them. And if it does, they were already probably over there. They were already doing their worst. They were part of the problem to begin with. I personally believe if you have a microphone and you have a camera, you have any kind of setup, and you have access to anyone outside of yourself, you have the right to choose what you do with that. And I think you should choose responsibly. There are days where I see something and I say, I don't have the bandwidth to talk about that. And then there are days where I see something and I say, if that were me, God, wouldn't it be nice if someone defended me? And I do what I do. One thing that I always lean back into is that she doesn't see these things. She protects herself. Her internet use is heavily guarded, as she has explained to us, and people do not share these things with her. But I think just because it's outside of her gaze doesn't mean she doesn't deserve to be defended. And if I have the bandwidth and I feel personally moved to talk about it, I will. And if someone happens to find out about this thing that they didn't know about before, I am not publicizing that to them, because whatever they choose to do with that information, they were going to do anyway. But at least in the process, if they found out through me, they heard my opinion about it and they heard Meghan be defended. And maybe, just maybe, I said something that might trigger a thought that might change their outlook or their behavior or have them not do whatever they were going to do beforehand. But I can assure you, if someone with ill intent towards Harry and Meghan find out about something through my channel, they're not going to be any more motivated to cause harm than they were before they got here. I am not going to operate always in defense of trolls. They are going to do what they're going to do. As a matter of fact, because they do what they do and because they're always going to do what they're going to do anyway, my channel exists. I don't know if you've heard of my origins, but for people who leave that comment, I'm always like, do you even know how I started this channel or why? It's because people were already doing their worst. I'm not going to motivate them to do any more. As a matter of fact, if they happen to come across this content, I hope I've left them with something to think about. And if I didn't, that's fine too, because my content isn't for them. It's for the people who want to hear Meghan defended. It's for the people who want to hear the positives, who want to hear her defended, who want to hear more about her life or her work, hear more about Harry. My channel is a lot of things, but catering to trolls is not one of them. But I will say this, I implore everyone to take control of what they consume. And if my channel and my content does not work for you, if you don't want to hear Meghan get defended, if you have a plethora of reasons why what I do isn't good enough for you or doesn't work with you or whatever, I want you to take the same advice I gave those trolls earlier in this video and do what works best for you. I welcome you, but you are not welcome to make it miserable for the rest of us. And I mean that in the kindest way, but I'm absolutely not going to be tiptoeing through life worrying about what naysayers say, because they're going to say it anyway. And if they haven't said it and you haven't observed it, sweetheart, just keep on living. Just keep on living. You know, it kind of reminds me, it's not the same thing by a long shot, but it's the same grain of thinking, the same line of thinking, that anytime there has been a movement for progress, there have been people who agreed that the progress needed to happen, but always had a criticism about the method. But they never had a solution for going about the resolution without those methods. They just know those methods didn't work. Look at every moment in history where we made significant progress. Every rights, human rights, civil rights movement. There have been people who said, well, I mean, I get that we should have the ability to sit anywhere we want on a bus, but I just don't think a boycott is the best thing. It's going to upset too many people. It's going to anger too many people. It's going to cause too much friction. I do think that we should be able to eat at any restaurant or diner or go to any establishment we want, and we should be able to walk through the front door. But I just don't think a sit-in is the best way to go about it. It's going to be so disruptive. It's going to make things more angry. It's going to make more violence. You do realize those things are already happening, which is why a disruption has to happen, why conversations have to happen, why a spotlight has to be shined. And there were people who held 3- and 4-person protests, and then there were movements that had thousands of people participating in the protests, and all of them were valuable. Either way, I was the only person who was put off by that whole situation. Feminegra was inspired to pen an amazing article that dissects the conundrum of women being judged more harshly, not only than men, but more harshly than violent men. And so in addition to my extended feelings on the ranker.com thing, I want to also share that article. I feel like you have stayed this long, that's something that would absolutely interest you. But I feel like Miss Historian has such a precise way of getting to the meat and potatoes of an issue. And I really enjoy reading and sharing her perspective. So let's get into that. Once again, this article is in Feminegra, written by Miss Historian, and it's titled, Why Women Like Meghan Sussex Are Judged More Harshly Than Violent Men. A crowdsourced celebrity poll placed Meghan Sussex, Prince Harry, and several other women with no criminal records at or near the top of the list, alongside men accused or convicted of serious violence, including sexual assault and trafficking. The contrast was so stark that even casual readers stopped to question it. Public figures accused of nothing more than being disliked ranked above individuals linked to documented harm. The result did not spark consensus. It sparked disbelief. What followed was not anger toward those women, but confusion over why they had been grouped there at all. The ranking comes from Ranker, which relies on open voting without safeguards, weighting, or moral standards. As of December 28, 2025, more than 1.4 million votes from roughly 109,000 users had ranked 162 celebrities based on irritation rather than misconduct. The structure collapses everything into a single scale. Serious allegations and personal dislike carry the same weight, placing documented violence beside subjective annoyance and reducing real harm to a popularity contest. Earlier versions of the list intensified that problem. Meghan Sussex and Prince Harry appeared near the top alongside men accused or convicted of sexual assault, trafficking, and abuse. The reaction was not agreement, but disbelief. Viewers struggled to understand why public figures with no criminal accusations were being judged in the same moral category as people linked to serious harm. Since then, the ranking has shifted again. It now places men such as Sean Combs, Andrew Tate, Prince Andrew, and Bill Cosby firmly at the top. That change only reinforces the underlying issue. Meghan's earlier placement did not reflect misconduct. It reflected sexism, sustained by years of recycled tabloid narratives that conditioned audiences to respond with hostility rather than evidence. The top of the list exposed a familiar divide. Men associated with physical violence, sexual assault, or exploitation appeared alongside women criticized for attitude, ambition, or visibility. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, whose ties to Jeffrey Epstein sparked global outrage toward both him and the royal institution that shielded him, now occupies the same cultural space as women disliked largely because of bigotry, internal bias, or susceptibility to false media narratives. That contrast reveals how public judgment works. Society often treats male harm as a failing that time, silence, or status can smooth over. It treats female refusal as an unforgivable breach. I really, really like the way she worded that. Meghan Sussex has topped versions of this list in 2022, 2023, and 2024 without any allegation of criminal or unethical behavior. In the UK, recurring YouGov surveys regularly circulate her supposed unpopularity without ever identifying a concrete offense. The dislike comes first, and the justification follows. Her speech, clothing, behavior, work ethic, and even the presence of her Black mother are then framed as evidence of wrongdoing. That double standard explains why Kate Middleton eating an avocado is praised as a wholesome maternity choice, while Meghan doing the same is twisted into claims about human rights abuses, environmental harm, and generational moral failure. The bigotry has sunk to such extremes that reports claim the current Princess of Wales would rather live near the credibly accused Andrew than Meghan and Harry. The comparison exposes how warped the hierarchy of judgment has become and how the royal system benefits from and quietly reinforces the distortion. Yeah, I've talked about that over on Patreon, how not only is it disgusting from a moral sense, but you are parents. For William and Kate to prefer Andrew in any capacity, no matter who it's over, for you to be okay with Andrew in any capacity, and you have children, that's a whole nother level of, I don't even want to call that delusion. That sounds like birds of a feather. If you don't see the value in child safety and you have kids and you were once kids yourselves, there's a much bigger problem at play. There's a much bigger problem than one individual person. You have a belief system that absolutely needs to be destroyed and rebuilt from a moral place. And I can't believe that of William. Now, listen, I don't know much about Kate Middleton or the Middleton family or what have you, but I know of William's mother. And I do know who William's mother stood for and what she stood for. I know what his dad is and who his dad is and how his dad has a lot of predator friends. But I do know who William was raised by. I do know who instilled William's core beliefs. And he was a teenager. He was more than old enough to be set in his ways as far as his values, to truly understand and to truly understand and embody his values at the time that his mother unfortunately passed away. And there's no excuse considering the same mother who instilled those values in William instilled them in Harry, and we see evidence of it in Harry, but not the older son. These are choices. He and his wife are choosing to stand by a predator. And I know the whole performative BS that they have done with Andrew to make it seem like he's so ousted and blah, blah, blah. But I have to be honest, anybody still living in a multi-million-dollar estate, not having to work for it, getting meals cooked for them, and they don't have to clean up after themselves, and they don't even have to pay no bills, that doesn't sound much like a prison to me. That sounds like he's living high on the hog, and now he doesn't have to pretend that he's working for it. It sounds like he just got sent on a more extended vacation. Life got easier for him. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. We've discussed that on Patreon, but the way that people even put Harry and Meghan next to Andrew as if the royal family had to choose between and they shouldn't even be compared in the same way that Meghan and Harry shouldn't have even been on that list. It's the same thing. It's the same line of thinking that I'm arguing. They should not be compared. There is no competition and no comparison that can be made between people who just happen to not want to be abused and a person or people who think abusing is okay. Those are two completely polar opposite things, and they should not be compared. But if we are going to compare them, where you stand says everything, not a lot, not a little, not something, but everything about you. If you can stand with an abuser, no matter who it's against, you are the problem. And you are why that abuser has been able to abuse you and people like you who've enabled and who've shielded, who've protected and who've covered. You are part of the problem. British media coverage helped manufacture this outcome. Commentators like Jeremy Clarkson publicly fantasized about ritual humiliation for Meghan, rhetoric never directed at Andrew, even as further details about his Epstein associations emerged. Clarkson was rewarded for his language by Prince William appearing on his show. Men implicated in serious harm still receive restraint, distance, and quiet deference. Lists like this do not measure conduct or consequence. They measure tolerance. None of the women, nor Prince Harry, ranked here, have been accused of crimes, yet they are positioned alongside men linked to documented violence. That imbalance exposes how easily discomfort with women hardens into condemnation. Meghan Sussex became a lightning rod, not because of wrongdoing, but because she exercised choice. She spoke plainly, protected her family, and exited a system that expected silence in exchange for status. That refusal unsettled audiences conditioned to obedience, especially from women who crossed lines of race, power, and sexuality. What followed was not accountability, but fixation. In that light, the ranking reads less as public opinion and more as cultural leakage. It reflects media ecosystems that reward illogical grievance, polls that confuse noise for consensus, and a public trained to mistake repetition for truth. Meghan's continued stability and success sit outside that circle. The anger persists because it has nowhere else to go. Thank you so much for watching the SharionSade YouTube channel. I appreciate you watching my content. If you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video by hitting the thumbs up. Please don't forget to subscribe by hitting the subscribe button. And don't forget to comment along the way. If you feel so inclined, please don't forget to share so that more people can find us. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Now let's get back to the video. Now that I have given more of my candid thoughts on this situation, this is going to end my dialogue on this topic. But now that I've given my candid thoughts, I do want to leave you with this. Now, this quote has been credited to an African proverb, to several comedians, etc. But I first heard it from civil rights leader Dr. Ralph David Abernathy. And he said, "It's not the name they call you, it's the name you answer to." When you are in any position to stand up for yourself, to stand up for others, to shine your light as an example of what could be or what should be or what's right. When you stand for any type of moral basis or some sort of value, when you stick to your guns in the face of temptation, in the face of bullying, in the face of hardship, when you know who you are and you stay rooted and grounded in that, there will be people who are upset about that. Meghan, Harry, the people on that list, you, me, anyone who may be putting themselves in the driver's seat in the next statement, you are not subject to what other people feel about you. It is not your job to modify yourself or your conduct in any way in order to curate an image for someone else's appeasement. If they don't like you, they're not going to like you regardless. If they didn't like you based on a misunderstanding, then they'll have time to get to know you, and that will eventually subside. And if they don't outright tell you that they don't like you, they don't know you well enough to form an opinion about you in one way or the other. So why give it any credence? What other people think or say or feel about you is none of your business. You hold all the power to curate and create the world that you live in. What you see, what you experience, what you embody, that is all up to you. And I hope you don't waste your time making it all about the ridiculous, uninformed opinions of other people who don't even like themselves. You can't tell me who I am because you don't even know who you are. You see what you want to see in me because you refuse to see it in the mirror. And that's not my job to fix. And so for those of you who may come up against an oppressor or a hater or just someone who intends to disrupt your life in some way, someone who's jealous of you, someone who just wants to be in your space, someone who doesn't know how to say, I want to be your friend. So instead they decide, I want to be their adversary. At least I'll have their attention. Regardless of what the person who came to your mind when I said that, regardless of what they think of you, the only way they have any significance is if you give them any attention. Whatever journey they're on, you just kind of have to let them work that out. That's not your job. You are on this earth for a reason and you got too much shit to do. I hope you spend your time getting to that. That's all I have for y'all today. I apologize for being long-winded, but I realized I didn't get all my thoughts out the last time and I definitely wanted to elaborate, but that article definitely inspired more feelings and thoughts as well. So I wanted to share. I look forward to reading your commentary on this. If you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and feel free to share so that more people can find us. And I will see y'all next time. Bye.